Hi, everyone. Welcome to the first set of the final Word Masters Challenge of the year. This is words 1 through 15. For homework, due Tuesday, if you're in my class on the Costa team, so Tuesday, March 31st, you need to watch the video, write 10 creative original sentences with them. Remember that we're looking for really solid, detailed sentences that give a lot of context clues. And please use the Quizlet, the link is on Edline, to study for at least 20 minutes. Our first word is rasp, and this is one of the many words in this round that you've probably heard before already. And rasp is a harsh, grating noise or coarse file for scraping or filing down. So here's a picture of that second part of the definition. So this part right here, the tool that's used for filing things down, often if they're metal. Um, and the verb is to make a harsh grating noise, scraping something with a rasp in order to make it smoother. So when you think of rasp too, think of Scrooge. They talk about Scrooge's grating voice in the Christmas Carol in A Christmas Carol rather when they first introduce him. So it's kind of like a deep, scratchy, almost painful sound, not very pleasant to the ears, which obviously matches Scrooge pretty well. Sunder is to split apart. Sometimes bones sunder, as you can see here. It is a verb, by the way. And sometimes relationships or differences can force people to sunder. For example, this woman says, "My husband is a Yankees fan. He's sitting in the bleachers. Go Red Sox." Um, and it shows that their relationship has sundered for the afternoon while they root for different teams. You can also sunder long term about other bigger issues in life. But what's bigger than the Red Sox and the Yankees? Listless is an adjective, and it's usually describing someone or like a group's behavior and attitude, and it means lacking energy or enthusiasm. So I know I speak for many teachers in our building that one of the things that we hate to see is a listless class, especially when we spend time trying to develop a really engaging lesson to get you guys thinking and up and moving and talking to each other. So listless becomes um, kind of like a drag for us. You can see these kids are clearly listless. They're lacking energy or enthusiasm. Charlatan is a noun, and it's a person who is falsely claiming to have special knowledge or skill. It's basically a fraud. Someone who pretends like they know how to do something or have a certain skill and they don't. Route. You've probably heard this term in sports a lot, and the original way back earlier definition, um, when the word was first created, was a noun, and it's a disorderly retreat of defeated troops. And then the verb form is to defeat and cause a retreat in disorder. You've probably heard it as far as a team got routed or there was a rout in the game. So for example, obviously this score was a rout 58-0. And it kind of makes sense if you think about it that when a team suffers a rout, when you're the team that's getting routed and losing a bunch of games, you're probably defeated in a way that kind of causes some disorder. So that's how the word relates to how it's commonly used now. Toothsome is an adjective. It has two different meanings. You can use it to describe like a person um, or a picture as very attractive or appealing. You can also use it to describe a toothsome meal, which would be something delicious, like maybe all of this stuff, which just looks to be like a Thanksgiving feast. Makes me hungry just looking at it. A smidgen is a noun, and again, you've probably heard this one before as well. It's just a small amount. You may ask your mom or dad for a smidgen of extra ice cream, or just a smidgen of more allowance every week. When you go to do cake testings, if you get married, they only give you a smidgen of each cake. I learned that the hard way. I thought I was going to get full pieces. Deplete is a verb, and it means to greatly reduce or decrease the amount of something. So, for example, during a drought, the water, which would usually be higher up on these walls, has been depleted and it's been reduced by a large amount. Another example is sometimes in certain classes, when there are so many kids out, like early in January and February, and we had so many kids out with the flu, a class can feel like this and feel really depleted. You can also, one of the ways you can become listless, to use another word, is if you're depleted of energy. Morose is an adjective, and it's usually describing a person or like the feeling of a certain event or location. And it's very serious and sad or quiet, and it's kind of like the sad, depressing, unhappy, kind of like this cute baby. And then, of course, when you think morose, can't do morose without grumpy cat. Cacophony is a really great word. It sounds like an adjective, but you definitely want to make sure you're using it as a noun. So, for example, when orchestras first start warming up, or when you guys in band and even chorus start warming up, the sounds are kind of like loud and disjointed and kind of all over the place, and that can be unpleasant, kind of crashing, banging noises. However, when you pull it together at the end, it goes from being cacophony to harmony. And some people, myself included, intentionally have an alarm in the morning that makes kind of a cacophony that wakes them up. Splice is to join rope, wires, etc. by weaving or twisting them together. Here's an example of what that would look like. And then you can also use splice to describe through genetics, combining or inserting through genetic engineering. Some of you guys in your argument piece, you wrote about genetically modified food and how that's created and whether it's healthy or not. And that's actually a form of splicing where they take genetic material from different foods and combine them. Here is obviously a joke, a little hyperbole of what would happen if we spliced the genes of a wolf and a blue jay. And there was a horror movie that came out a few years ago called Splice, where they tried to combine DNA from different animals and obviously had like a disastrous effect. Makeshift, another word you've probably heard before, and it basically means a crude or temporary substitute for something else. So for example, it looks like these guys maybe got stranded out here and they had to use some paneling of some sort as a makeshift raft to get back to shore. And those of you who have ever been at a sleepover with a bunch of people, you know that sometimes you end up making makeshift beds like this one with a few cushions, a couple pillows, and a blanket. A smattering is a small amount of something or a small and scattered amount of something. So in that first definition, a small amount of something, very similar, almost identical to smidgen. On the other one, think of like a crowd. If you ever go to like a baseball game or maybe the weather isn't that great somewhere, and you look at the crowd, and you can see out here there's like some people up here, some people over here, some people are hanging out over here, but it's still just a smattering of people. They're kind of scattered in a small amount throughout a certain area. Loiter is a verb, and it means to remain in an area when you don't have a particular reason to be there. So these people, after they've gotten their Starbucks, just kind of hanging out there, and sometimes that's okay. But sometimes owners will have signs like this posted outside. So basically, once you've done what you need to do, please move on, because they don't like when people just loiter. Cheeky is an adjective that can apply to some of you on any given day, and it means rude and showing a lack of respect, often in a way that seems playful or amusing. And what I mean by that is you may think you're being cute or you may think you're being funny, but your behavior can come off as being kind of rude and disrespectful. So definitely something you want to avoid. You don't want to be described as cheeky, because even though you might think you're being cute and funny, you could be disrespecting someone, especially an adult. So again, oops, got to fix that date. By the 31st, please write 10 sentences and spend about 20 minutes on Quizlet. The link is on Edline. Studying and getting more familiar with these words. And again, get in the habit of every night spending a little time with the words, and I think that you will see a big difference.